Welcome to the Paranormal Nation Radio, live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time on Paranormal Nation's radio Facebook page. Join us live with special guests and live interaction with our listeners. Welcome to the Paranormal Nation radio show tonight. We welcome everybody in the chat room coming in. So tonight I got a co-host with me, which is Denise Pridemore, so I'll be bringing her up. And there's Denise. How you doing?
Fine. How are you tonight?
Doing great. So how's everything been down there in Kansas?
Just rainy and cold.
Same here. So tonight we got a couple of good guests on here. They're from Riverside, Iowa Paranormal. We'll be bringing Michelle up first. I'm not going to try to butcher her last name, so we'll let her say her last name up here. Hi, Michelle.
Hello. We can just stay with Michelle. It'll make it so much easier.
That'll work. Okay, we're also going to bring up Jake from Riverside, Iowa. Hi, Jake.
Hello.
So, how have you both been doing?
Pretty good.
Been doing pretty good. The sun's been shining. Can't get any better.
True.
Right. Okay. For our listeners out there that may know you or may not know you, Michelle, you want to tell us a little bit about you and your paranormal?
Yes. Let's see. I've been in the paranormal for many, many years, so this way I don't give my age. I am a trans medium, psychic medium, demonologist. I am the board of director of the Warren Legacy Foundation, which is part of Ed and Lorraine Warren. And Riverside, Iowa Paranormal has been around for many years. We have different chapters. We have Minnesota, Indiana, Kansas City. We have just added California. We work with a lot of private clients, but we also do events. The events that we do, we actually help bring money back into those historical places to keep them running. And we take a small portion to actually go back into helping the clients, since we never charge for any of our services. I see things a little different than, of course, my teammate Jake, and he'll be able to tell you that. I see kind of in the now. So when I do a walkthrough, I see more of the dark side of things. A lot of people will see, smoke and beautiful, like angel things. I normally see them as if they're dark entities, different types of things like that. Myself and Jake have helped the police department with a missing persons case using our abilities. And that's kind of what we do now. We do cases around the world with the Warren Foundation. And everybody on the team kind of is part of that foundation too.
That's great. Pretty interesting there. And we'll let Jake tell a little bit about himself, and then we'll get into some more questions about the whole team and everything on there. So, Jake, let us know a little bit about yourself.
Well, I don't have quite the extensive resume as Michelle does, but I as well am a psychic medium. I read tarot cards as well. And I have been involved in the paranormal formally for less time than Michelle. And I say formally because I haven't done the investigation piece as long as Michelle has, but having grown up with abilities, I've always sort of had that exposure to that. So doing investigations, I've only been doing that for a couple of years now. But like Michelle says, we've worked with the police department working on a local case, and I use my abilities with tarot readings and all sorts of stuff. So,
Well, that's awesome. So, how many members are on your team up there in Riverside, Iowa?
Let's see. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's, I think, 9 of us in Iowa, and then we have 6 in the Kansas City area, 2 in Minnesota, 3 in California, 2 in Indiana. So we're a pretty big group, but we do get, requests for help pretty much all over the place. We do cases. We're working with cases in Germany, and we've done some case in Poland and things like that too.
Well, that's good. How did you decide to start chapters out of your RIP?
As we were growing, we were getting more requests for help. And as I was always looking for other teams, that wouldn't charge and actually did it to help others, it was getting to the point where we could not help all these people because there wasn't teams out there that wanted to do it anymore. It was everybody wanted to be on TV and do those kind of things that we couldn't get the help that people were looking for. So we decided, we need to start finding some chapters and, because we want to do the full Midwest, but now we're getting calls in California and Texas and different areas. So we want to make sure we have the team members that kind of live by exactly what we, live by. And that is to help those in need.
Wow, that's really interesting on that. Now, Jake, you do readings by Jake on the Spirit Realm Network.
that's correct.
There. Yeah, I got a question that somebody posted earlier today. How do you pick the tarot cards that you're going to use, or do you use a certain deck? Because I know there's different decks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so all in all, I have somewhere between 15 and 20 decks. I'd have to get them all out and count them to know for sure. But there are a couple that I use most often. And the one that I use the most on the show is the classic Rider-Waite deck. It's one of the most popular. I do have some other more popular decks as well, one of them coming from the notorious Aleister Crowley and his Thoth deck. But on the show, I primarily use the Rider-Waite deck. And so the way that I go about choosing the cards is I shuffle them with the question in mind. So if I'm doing a reading for another person and they've got a specific question, as I'm shuffling the cards, that's what I focus in on. And that energy attaches to the cards. And then the cards, some people might say guides, kind of depending on your belief system, orient themselves and they'll let me know when they're in the right order for me to stop shuffling and draw them. So then I'll stop shuffling, I cut the deck, and then I pull however many right off the top. So depending on the reader that you ask, they might select cards a different way. I know different readers will shuffle the cards different ways, but that's what works for me. It's just shuffling with that question in mind, listening for when I'm told that we're good, and then I cut the deck and pull however many I need for the reading off the top.
Awesome. And I notice I've watched your show quite a few times on that network, and I know you pick certain names out. What draws you to those names?
So it's interesting. I always say on the show, I go to people that I'm drawn to, and their names will look a little bit different depending on the individual. Sometimes their names might look a little more bold than everyone else's name in the chat. Sometimes their name might be in bigger letters. Sometimes it might be a slightly different color. And sometimes I actually hear my guides say this one when I get to a certain name. So it's all just kind of random, and it depends on the individual for how their name jumps out at me.
Awesome. Yeah, somebody posted me some questions on that, and I said, well, I'll ask him when he gets on the show here because I don't know that much about tarot cards. So, but I watch your show and learning a little bit more here and there about it and stuff.
Awesome.
Now, I noticed on, I think it was the Facebook or group page, Into the Dark. Is that one of RIP shows?
Yes, it is. We do a lot of, we do a lot of the live investigations in the places that we go to. One, to showcase the place itself. We actually go to a lot of places that are not like super well known. That not, it's not like a Waverly, or it's not like the Velisca murder house, of course, something that everybody knows about. So we do live investigations there. But what we also do is we have a big following on Facebook, and we have a lot of people that, interact with us, that when they come to that event, they actually become part of that live investigation. So, they're watching us doing it, but now they're going to be able to do it with us and be able to see what it's like doing it that way too.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I ran across that. I haven't watched any of those yet, but I'm gonna have to check into them and stuff. And
We
then I
got one coming up
noticed
Saturday. Jake is actually going to be
you
doing a
do.
live Jake will be doing, it'll be Jake and Kelly and Drew will be doing a live investigation at the haunted YMCA. And what is it?
Rock Island.
Rock Island, Illinois.
I've heard of that.
It is an amazing place. And again, it's one of those places people don't even think about because it's not been on TV or anything like that. But if you want to get any evidence, I mean, it's all over, and it has so many different layers. So they're going to actually be doing a live investigation Saturday night up there.
It's one of Madison Smith's favorite places.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Yeah. And then also down through on your Facebook page, I was looking at a lot of stuff and on your website and stuff. You guys remove haunted items?
Yes, I do. So
What kind of haunted items have you removed?
So here's what it is. I do psychometry, and I got to pat myself on the back. I'm pretty good at it. When we are doing it, we can actually tell, some people think there's an object that's haunted or maybe not be haunted or spirited or however you want to say it. We actually do go in there. There's times that I'll bring Jake to, to ask his opinion. If it is something that's in the home, what we do is we actually do lock them up and bind them and keep them protected so they don't get back out. So we don't sell them. We don't put them all on display right now. They're in a very safe place. We've gotten stuff. We've got stuff that comes through the Warren Foundation, and we've gotten some things that are from Scotland, Germany, and different things. So we have all different items. We're from dolls to swords to a mirror, things that people feel that keeps giving them a lot of bad stuff. And so we remove it for them. And then we, of course, will cleanse the home and all that too.
That's pretty cool.
When you cleanse, do you use sage or do you use holy water, holy oil?
Well, it actually depends on what type of spirits that are in there, because it depends on if it's dark energies or if it's just human spirit. Because when you start dealing with dark entities or negative energy, you start doing sage, you're just going to make them really mad. They'll stay dormant for about 5 minutes and then they're going to come back. So we have different types of herbs and things that we do work with. And so depending on exactly what we're getting into. So we do the investigation first before we go in and start cleansing. A lot of times we'll do like maybe an exorcism of the home, not of the person, but to get rid of negative energy. So we use different types of things for that. And we have a pretty big arsenal, from anointing oil to holy water, sage, we have Mexican copal, we have asafoetida, you name it, we've got it.
Yeah.
So
We have a question out of the chat room I posted up there. It says, how do you secure the negative ones?
well, it depends on which way. I mean, we don't trap them or anything like that. I will tell you that for sure. A lot of times, well, you hear people say that. So I gotta say it, again, it also depends on what we're dealing with. So Jake, I come more on that biblical side with the holy water and all that. Jake comes from a different way of doing it. So sometimes we have to see, do we go together, both, doing it in a separate sense, and we each come from a different way? Or is it something that, Jake, we have to do it the way Jake would do it with, the sealing and cleansing and things. And Jake can actually explain that to you. But again, it's always investigating to find out exactly what we're up against to how we get rid of it.
When you guys
Right.
go in to cleanse a home, do you go and investigate it and then leave the people there in the home and then come back later and clear it? Because I know that when we investigate for that, we go in, we investigate it, clear it, then we don't make them stay in it after we've pissed off the spirits.
Well, it depends on each location and what we do, because if we're dealing with just a human spirit that we can maybe cross over, we do it right then and there. But when it becomes something that, if it's negative energy, you're not going to clean it out when you're done with an investigation. It just doesn't happen.
No.
So, we might put a seal around it, and that's where Jake comes to kind of, we call it what, Jake, like binding? Is that kind of what you would call it?
Yeah, that'd be a good word for it.
Yeah, to make sure the people are safe, because that's our first priority.
Right.
Then we can come with a game plan of how we're going to attack this, because if we don't do it correctly, we're just going to make it worse for them.
That's true. So, and Jake, how do you go about sealing a demon or a negative spirit?
I guess I don't use the term sealing as much as I do binding. And so what I do with that is it's very similar to what Michelle's talking about when she talks about doing the cleansing with the sage. I might use some different herbs than just the white sage, although that is a good one. It's a good go-to for me as well. Essentially what I do is it's more energy based. So it's kind of like putting up an energetic barrier so that whatever negativity is there can't do what it normally does. So sometimes that means the negative energy is outside the home, but still on the property, and it's just not affecting what's going on inside the house. Other times it might be kind of binding it to one specific part of the house just to get it under control and so that it can't wreak havoc. Like Michelle says, it kind of depends on each individual case and the entities that we're dealing with. Some of them need to be out of the house right away. Others, it's more of just kind of a keep your distance type situation. So it really depends on what we're dealing with.
Kind of like putting them to sleep for a little bit.
Yeah.
Pretty much. We give them the good stuff.
Oh, can I have some?
Yeah, right?
Okay. Dan, we had another deal in our chat room over here. Justin from WO Entertainment. They do a show for the veterans right before my show starts, usually. Tonight, I was telling you about it earlier in the green room, what we was talking about over in the old Cameron School in the basement. Their phones were shutting off left and right, their computer, audio problems left and right. So he says, can we exorcise the demons out of the WO Entertainment computers?
Well, I would have to say we probably have to see first if, it has to do with the building itself. Is there something there that is cutting all that stuff off? Or do a walkthrough and kind of find out, what is in there that could be sucking up all that energy. It could be a little bit of both. We always try to debunk first. So
right.
Yeah, but the first thing, like I said before, If it's an internet issue, please call CenturyLink. And if they don't help you, contact me and I will find a technician. I will make sure I get somebody to come out there because we have a program called Employees Helping Customers. So needless to say, I don't work in Missouri. I mean, I am just 5 miles from Missouri, but I can find somebody to help you if nobody comes out to help you.
Yeah. Maddie's in the chat room. I think that's one of your people from the KC chapter.
Yep.
That sure is.
So, okay. Now,
Welcome, Maddie.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Hi, Maddie. Mwah.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit? I've been looking up some stuff. Tell our listeners a little bit about the Warren Legacy Foundation.
Well, the Warren Legacy Foundation is actually run by Chris McKinnell. Chris McKinnell is the grandson of Ed and Lorraine Warren. He actually was working with his grandparents since he was 16 years old and pretty much knows everything that they did and on the cases. He started the Legacy Foundation with his grandmother when she was, pretty much retired to continue the work that they started. So what we do is we have paranormal researchers, from all around, different teams from other parts of the country. The same concept, helping people who need help. We don't charge a dime for any of it. We have a huge range of people that we can, from doctors to psychiatrists to, we have priests, we also have witches and a little bit of everybody there that help. And he's been doing it for a very long time, and it's been amazing to be part of it. To watch some of the old cases that were worked on, learning the old school stuff, because they were pioneers. I mean, they were doing this stuff when paranormal wasn't cool.
A good friend of mine.
That's cool.
That passed last year was good friends with Ed and Lorraine. And
yeah.
He actually passed a week after she did.
Oh my goodness.
And so it was horrible, but he told us so many stories that people don't know about the war.
Yeah.
And, inside stuff that, we felt lucky to have been able to have heard. Lorraine used to come on his radio show all the time back 10 years ago before dementia took over everything.
Yeah.
And they were invited to her birthday parties and all that kind of stuff until Tony started charging people to come to her birthday parties. But yeah, there was a lot of different stories about them that, like I said, I feel grateful that I got to hear from somebody who was very close to them. So
that's how I am with Chris, being the grandson. I get to, I know them as grandma and grandpa type of deal, not just, they going out and just helping everyone. So, having that intimate side with them is amazing.
Yeah. A couple sets of our friends are, have firsthand knowledge of Ed and Lorraine. In fact, this next Conjuring movie that we've been seeing that's going to be coming out is a friend of mine. And it's going to be amazing to see their story again, and maybe from a different angle, because, we don't get to see the stories of the real people that really had issues, needed a demonologist, needed to be exorcised and all that. And I don't know how true the story is going to be, but knowing my friend, I guarantee she didn't give them a lot of creative freedom on that, because they don't like their story coming out.
Yeah, because that case that they're going to be putting on The Conjuring is actually the case that Chris was working and actually was with that family and still, knows the wife very well. And so, to know the real story of what happened, we just did a together on Friday. We talked about that story because of the movie, and the real stuff that was happening there and how it all worked. And it was a devastating thing. But, you know, it'll be kind of interesting to see how they end up putting it on the movie.
Well, Nick, the next Conjuring movie is like I said, is a good friend of mine, and she talks openly about it. I mean, when she was on, she's the right hand person of my friend that passed, and she would talk openly about the case, about how it affected her brother, how it affected her husband, how it affected her, and just hearing it from her side, and how much Ed and Lorraine helped them. I mean, just if you just listen to the part about how much respect they have for Ed and Lorraine, you feel like no matter what else is said, they had that respect for Ed and Lorraine, period. And they talk about how they saved their lives. So I think the next Conjuring movie after this, I think, is somebody I know as well. So, and I don't watch horror movies, so I only watch this because my friend's in it. It's my friend's story. I have not seen the other ones.
Yeah.
I don't like blood and gore. No.
Right. So earlier you said you helped the police with the case. Can you tell a little bit about that, or are you able to?
We're not able to. I mean, we can just say that let's put it this way, it did turn out to be a good thing. It turned out on a positive note.
Good. That's glad to hear. So, let's see. Yeah, you started chapters. Okay. What places have you investigated up in your area?
Let's see. We have, okay, you're going to have to help me, Jake, here. I know we've done MSP, of course.
Yep.
We've done Edinburgh. We've done
Farrar.
Farrar School. We've done the McIntyre Villa. We have done the Beatty Mansion.
You've done the Galore Psychiatric Museum.
Yes. We've also were up in Minnesota and we did, what is that? Nopaming. Yep. I'm trying to remember. We've been to a lot of places.
Ashmore. State.
So yeah, we've been to a lot of big places.
Have you been to Melbourne?
We are actually doing a live investigation there on Halloween night.
Well, good. You'll be happy to know that they put on all that Wi-Fi and they got heat this year. So
that's really nice, because we'll definitely need the Wi-Fi for the live investigation, because I know we're going to do the interview and then also the investigation. And we actually will have people who have bought tickets to join us to be on that live investigation.
And just a heads up, it doesn't work well in the attic.
Okay. Awesome.
So
can I call you then to get help?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been there enough times.
I ain't got Wi-Fi in the attic. We need help.
No, like I said, you don't get Wi-Fi in the attic. Everywhere else, you're probably fine, but the attic, drop up there. So just letting you know, that's been our experience. We've been there 3 times. The first time we went, they did not have any Wi-Fi except in the office, and now it's everywhere. So that's good. But make sure you bring something to snack on, because everything closes at 11 o'clock.
Perfect. Thank you.
Just a heads up.
Yeah, because after midnight, I'm starving.
Yeah.
Right.
And the only thing you really have is Casey's down the street. So yeah. So we always bring crock pots, and I cook up chili cheese hot dogs for everybody.
Ooh.
So it works.
Yeah, it works real good.
But I don't bring beans. Right. No beans.
Yeah, Jade Lopez in the chat room, one of my VA friends, wants to know, have you ever been anywhere in Colorado?
We have not. We would love to go to Colorado. We did work a case in Colorado, though, and also removed a lot of haunted dolls. And yes, I can say these are actually haunted because had them in my vehicle.
Hello. Hello.
Not me. Apparently, they didn't really want to talk to him.
It was the dolls calling you. I'm just telling you.
No, if that was true, Michelle, they'd be calling you.
Oh, no. And see, here's the funny thing. Me and dolls, I don't like them. Never have. And I had 34 of them, and they were in the vehicle. And all of a sudden, I started seeing the box moving around before I started even driving. And I'm like, oh, this is no good. So it still started shaking. I'm like, okay, something's not right. But, my best line through the whole thing was, if you guys don't stop it, I'm going to make sure I pull over and just dump you somewhere. And I'm like, I am talking to a box of dolls. So it took us a long while, but we had to do the binding on them, and got them in their separate cases and everything else. So yeah, it was a little bit of a chore.
I can see that. So
Yeah.
if you've got a doll problem, but luckily I had 4 girls, so we had dolls in this house all the time. But we had people that they didn't like. They were the China, not whether they were dolls. I was going to say China dolls, but porcelain and China the same thing. But we had these porcelain dolls that they just did not like. They still have them. They're in boxes in their closets, but they still have them. So, oh well. So, Jake, you look like you want to say something.
Not about the dolls. I just think it's kind of just to give you an idea of some of the spread of what has been sent to us. Like Michelle said, there was a sword, a bunch of dolls, an old wooden toy box.
Yes.
And that was one of my favorites because we were checking that out, and the owner opened it up, and afterwards I went up to Michelle and I said, "So what do you think about the little boy?" And she looks at me and she goes, "Don't you dare talk about that." She goes, that can't be real. And I was like, no, I know you saw it because I did, but we don't always see it the same way. I asked her afterwards how she saw it, and what I physically saw was I saw the bloody body of a young child wrapped in a blanket at the bottom of this toy box.
Mm-hmm.
And Michelle saw things a little bit differently, where it was more of the blood smearing, and she could see like the baby handprint and the blood. And
well, I've told people this before. You can have 3 mediums in a room, and all 3 of them see a different spirit. Sometimes they'll all see the same spirit, but they may see them at different stages, or it's just how you as a medium will perceive it. So just because it doesn't match up doesn't mean that you're not telling the same story. So because I know I've been in places where they go, okay, the Cameron Schoolhouse, I haven't been in there yet, okay, but I told them a couple weeks ago that there was a creepy man there, and because I saw him while we were talking about it, and I think they said that they have a girl there. Carl, is that what they said?
Yes.
And like I said, just because they've never heard that there's a man there doesn't mean that there isn't. But I don't know.
Right.
I've never been there.
Well,
I can tell you what I see right now. Not at that time.
Yeah, I've been to that. The old school is used for wedding receptions and different things now. I've been there to 2 wedding receptions and seen a lot of shadows and heard voices there before.
Well, and there's a lot of places you have to remember, people go by just what history they want you to know. Because in
Right.
smaller towns back in the day, if there was something that was scandalous, that part would be left out. But when we go in, and we also have another person on the team that has psychic abilities, we start seeing things and start talking about things, and we're like, well, we don't know nothing about that. So then after we give them what we're seeing, they start digging and then find older, newspapers and stuff and say, wait a minute, this was here. But it wasn't something a lot of people spoke about. So, we always go in, hey, okay, we might see that lady in the white dress, but we're going to probably see that person who helped push her down the stairs, but nobody knew who it was. And so it's been really exciting to go to some of these places, just like the Y. We only heard about a little boy in the swimming pool. Well, now, we went in there. There was a lot of prostitutes. And then there was some mob kind of stuff. And we were talking about the mob and everything. And the owner's like, well, I don't think I've heard about that. Well, then as she started digging, and some of our folks were digging. It did have ties to the mob. There were a lot of prostitutes because the Y was used for so many different things besides the Y. And so now people are looking at it in a different sense because that's what they're picking up on when they go there.
Yeah, that's true. But we like going in blind
Yes.
to see what evidence it and then research the location.
Mm-hmm.
I think you get a lot more out of it that way, honestly, because you're not going in with, tarnish. It's tarnished already because you've already been told, oh, this activity happens here and this activity happens here. And then you go in and you go, okay, well, this is what I'm told happens. And it's a girl and this and that. And it's like, okay, I don't want to hear all that. Just let me go in. Tell me your tour after.
That's like Jake being at the Y. I mean, he kept seeing military soldiers and things like that, and then found out, they were able to stay there, after, during World War II for a place for free as long as they were in uniform and stuff. And we didn't know about that until after we did it. And he's seen a lot of them all over the place. And then, of course, when we went to the one section of the Y, it just happens that there's mattresses there, but there are prostitutes that still think they're working.
They're hard workers.
even in the next
They love their work.
Yeah. So
yeah, they love their work. So they're sticking around.
So so we don't look at all that stuff prior, especially myself and Jake and Derek. We do like to go in blind, and we all go our different ways, and then we're kind of say what we've seen, and it all ends up coming together, and then there's like a new story that belongs to that place, not the same one that it's been said for over 10 years because that's what everybody thought.
Right. I have this thing about when I go on a tour, I get upset when they say stuff and if there's a spirit there that's saying, no, that's not it. This is the story. And when you tell them, they look at you like you're crazy.
Yes.
And it's like, I'm sorry, but I'll prove it. And so when that happened, I went back and I found the information and I sent it to the owner and I said, see, this is what I was telling you. This was a single family home before it was this. And they kept telling me, nope, it never was. And you can see in this building that it had 4 or 5 renditions before now. And they swore up and down I was full of it. I didn't know. Now they know. And but it's the truth. I have a thing about the truth. We were the tour guides at the Sally House for 7 years. Guess what I didn't tell people? I did not tell people that Sally was there and that she died from a botched appendectomy. Guess who's not asked to come back anymore? Me. But yeah, it's well, that's a whole different story. But
Right.
The truth is more important than your local legend.
Yep.
And that's what our group, and that's what, Jake lives by. And so does Derek, because I told him, I was like, we have these gifts to tell the truth, and we're not doing any justice to anybody if we're just going to try to mimic everybody else because they've seen a story. You know, my story might not make sense to someone. You know, Jake might see it in a way, and people are like, what are you talking about? But it always ends up at the end that we're right. It's just something you never wanted to hear before because it didn't follow script.
Yep. Needless to
Right.
say, I know that. And, you know, it was so funny though, when we weren't asked to come back, I was asked for my pile of documentation.
Oh, imagine that.
And I said, no. I said, no, you can't have it. It's thousands of hours of research and thousands of pages. You don't want it. Guess the story they're still telling.
Well, and that's like Jake doing his tarot cards, you know, they speak to him.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, sometimes they don't speak the happy go lucky rainbows and unicorns. Sometimes they say some things that you probably never wanted to hear. Or when he has a loved one come in, you know, he hears, you know, something bad. And I think that kind of sets us apart from some people because when I do a reading, I'm going to tell you if you have a negative attachment, and I'm going to tell you this is probably why it happened. But I'm very truthful. So I always warn people ahead of time. If you want to hear the truth, then I'll talk to you. But if you don't, I'm not the person to be speaking to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Jake, how do you handle that situation?
I'm very much the same. Before I do readings for people, I always tell them, I go, you know, I can't promise, first of all, that anyone will come through. I can invite them, but I cannot force them to do anything they don't want to do. And if they do, I can't promise it'll be a happy story. I was doing a private reading for a gentleman a while back. He wanted me to get in touch with a woman that he had loved very much. And I saw her walk in, and I said, hold on. I said, I've got some messages from you, for you from this person. And she rolled her eyes, she stopped, and she walked right out of the room. And so I messaged the gentleman. I said, look, I got into contact with her. This is what she did. And he goes, well, that doesn't really make any sense. And then he asked me questions. He's like, well, did she seem irritated? I said, yeah, she seems like it was one of those, oh, he's trying again. And then she just left. And he goes, oh, that actually makes perfect sense. And then that was the end of the conversation. So I was like, what just happened? I've had it before too, where I saw a picture was sent to me of someone's daughter, and I had to actually call Michelle because I'd never had a situation like this before. And I was like, Michelle, it's like I looked at this picture, and the first thing that popped in my head was suicide. I was like, and I haven't even called out to the girl yet. I was like,
Right.
how do I handle this? I've never had to do this before. And she goes, if that's what comes through when you contact her, she goes, then you need to call that person. She goes, this is not something you do over Facebook Messenger or text or anything like that. And so I did. And after talking to that woman quite extensively, she was in tears talking about her daughter. And I was talking about what I was seeing. And it all came together and made a lot of sense to her. But she had to wrestle with that suicide piece. And I told her, I was like, this is what I'm getting. And she goes, well, no, that's not right. That's not how she died. And I said, well, I can only tell you what's coming to me. Mm-hmm. And she goes, well, 6 months before she passed away, she did attempt suicide. And I said, well, I said, she must still hold on to that for some reason, or she would have never thought that valuable to tell me.
Right. Well, you know, for a lot of people who try to commit suicide that don't get where they wanted to go, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Some of them, they're not that they die, but in a way, their personality starts to die when they did that. Mm-hmm. It's a strange thing that I've seen amongst people who have attempted to commit suicide that fail, and then they die later on. I've noticed that they hold on to that as one of their death dates. Not that it's their only death, or that's the day they died, but something in them died that day.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what she was portraying to you, was this memory. There was something in it that was important to her mother.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes they give me information just so I can pass it on to the person to show that I have the right person with me. And there have been times where I've asked them and said, you need to tell me something that nobody else would know except this person. And then they tell me something. I go, they're talking something about this. And to give you an example, there was a gentleman, it was someone's grandfather. And he kept saying, tell her she can have the old radio. And so I told her, I said, he's saying something about you being able to have an old radio. And she goes, well, I don't know anything about an old radio. She goes, but when I was a kid, she goes, he had a record player that he would always let me play with. She goes, so I bet that's what he's talking about. There was that same gentleman told me, she had asked me, she goes, does he like the guy I'm with right now? And so I asked him, I said, what do you think of this guy right now that she's with? And he was kind of chuckling, and he goes, I'd like him a lot better if he'd stay out of my stuff. And so I messaged her, I'm like, do you have something of his? Because he's saying I'd like him a lot better if he stayed out of my stuff, but he's laughing about it like it's a joke. And she goes, oh my gosh. She goes, a few days ago, we were going through his closet, cleaning out all of his stuff, and my grandmother let me have a sweatshirt of his. And I said, okay, he's talking about going through the stuff in the closet. And he's like, I would like this guy a lot better if he'd leave my stuff alone. And so that was kind of funny for her because that was his personality. And that was something that she really liked. And so to get that memory back of someone that she cared about so much was very powerful for her.
See, I'll know it's my mom coming through a medium when they say the special word.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my mom had a special word that we set aside for when she passed. So if she came to any medium to talk, that word would come out. And the only one who knows that word that's living is me.
Right.
I've never told anybody what that word is. So far, hasn't come up. And I'm fine with that. You know, my sister, on the other hand, is not, because she swears up and down that mom's going to come and she's going to come quick. And I'm like, she's always around. You don't need that special word when you feel them with you, you know. But like I told her, I said, I'll know when it's mom, and I'm fine. I don't need any reassurance. And you guys are probably the same way. You don't need any reassurance of who's with you all the time.
Mm-mm.
So, and there's other people that need reassurance all the time about everything. Not me. I'm good.
Now, Jake, when you do your live readings on the Spiritual Realm Network, has any of that ever came up where something bad's going to happen?
Not as something, well, not that specific. Sometimes if people are asking something about money, things will come through, and it's not specific enough to tell me what the event is because it's just one card. But something might come through where it's like something's going to happen that you're going to have to spend more money than you were anticipating. Someone was asking something about a health reading, like, is my health going to get better? I don't remember what the card specifically was, but I do remember telling them and being like, right now, it's looking like it's going to get worse. I don't know just how bad it's going to get, but I'm seeing and hearing that it's going to get worse. So brace yourself for that. That's really all I can tell you. I have had it before where I was doing a reading for someone at an event where it talked about domestic abuse in one of their former relationships and how they're kind of carrying that burden with them. I've had a lot of interesting stuff come through, but they're not always that pinpoint specific.
Yeah, that's interesting. I just wonder, because I know you do like a weekly show on there, and I just wondered if a bad card had ever came up.
It has with negative messages, yes, but with one card, it's never specific enough to tell me exactly what's going to happen and kind of how soon it's going to happen necessarily. Just that it's somewhere down the pike for you.
Right. So, you've been to all these places. Which place what you would call your best evidence that you have captured? Either one of you.
Well, I'm thinking there's a couple places. I'm going to have to go with the why. And the reason I'm saying that is because we did an experiment there and wanted to see if we could actually get them to interact with all of us. There was recorders and everything there too. And we actually had some guests there. So we used the guests. So this way everybody knows it's not staged. We called in the ladies of the night and asked them to take care of the gentlemen who all have paid with gold coins and things like that. And some really crazy things were happening on that mattress. We were watching men talk about pressure in places that probably shouldn't had, and ice cold and movement. We seen hands doing different things. We had people actually experiencing all of this stuff, the caressing, feeling like they're getting kissed, their hair moving, things like that. So to have it as a group experiment and for it to turn out the way it did, it blew my mind, because I kind of felt, well, and I think Jake did too, because we were seeing it and I'm like, are we supposed to be watching this really? But we kept it interactive per se.
Paraporn.
Basically,
It got very intense. Let me put it that way. The interesting thing about it was when I did speak to some of them later on, a couple days later, I wanted to know exactly how that experience was for them. And it was really strange that all of them were talking, not just of the sensations and everything they were feeling, but it was almost like it was a very deep spiritual kind of thing. They said there was a feeling they have never felt before at all. So, to hear from people who don't know each other, the same type of story, I thought that was an amazing thing.
Yeah, that would be. How many people? Well, I lost her camera. Oh, there she is. Okay. How many guests were there at that time you did the experiment?
oh gosh, we've done it a few different times when we've done our groups there. I know we've had, at most, I think we had about 15 or so. We've also had as few as about 5.
I can't hear anything.
But it's always interesting because you see, when Michelle and I see what's going on, we get kind of red in the face. And we feel a little bit uncomfortable. And then you hear all the snickers and the chuckles from the audience, so to speak, especially when you see Michelle and I kind of have to take a deep breath, because we're almost like, are we actually watching this happen right now? Or we'll say things like, you might hear me say, okay, you should be feeling something in this general region. And then people will be like, yeah, that's what I'm feeling. And then you hear the snickers from the audience. So it's interesting that you have the people on the beds having the feeling of the touching and the pressure and the cold spots. But then you also have the audience that are watching this, and they're having a real reaction to what's going on as well. So it's always interesting to see when we do that experiment.
Yeah, Michelle's back now.
I'm back.
Yeah. Okay. But now, in that experiment, after it was over, did both of you talk together to see if you were seeing the same thing?
We kind of,
A little bit.
yeah, it's interesting because sometimes I might see one that Michelle doesn't, and so I might chime in and be like, not only should you be feeling something on your left side, but there should be something going on your right side too. And then they're like, holy crap, how did you know? And I'm like, well, do you really want the answer to that question? Or sometimes they'll ask us, they'll be like, what are you seeing? Like, no, not going to go there.
Yeah. But yeah, that would be wild. Now, do you ever have remote call-in viewers?
On
When you're going live at certain places, like we have when we're at Melbourne, we would have people that didn't know we was going to Melbourne, psychic mediums call in
Yeah,
to do a
remote
remote.
viewing.
Well, we can do remote viewing, but normally when we're live, we actually, people will put it on the chat while we're live. And if there's some psychics on there, they'll tell us, hey, are you catching what's in the corner or something? And then we'll kind of do that and kind of follow that too.
Right.
For us, when we
Yeah,
did it, it was an experiment to see. I had told everybody don't post where we're going and this and that, and let's see what we can get. And I had a few people. I just said, hey, we have this remote viewing experiment going on. If you want to help out, let me know and tell me what time you can call in, and we can do it from there. But like I said, that's when Malvern did not have Wi-Fi. And so it was hard trying to get everybody to call in because Sprint didn't work there. And this other one didn't work there either. So it was interesting to say the least. So, but
right.
it was just an interesting experiment to do because, I had never had anybody remote view into a location that we were at. And so, like I said, it was interesting to see which ones were right about where we were at and the which room we were in and all that. It was just a neat experiment,
Right. So is there out of all the places you've been investigating and everything, is there any place you wouldn't go back to?
Not for me. There are places that I might go about it a little bit differently. I might do a little bit more to prepare myself for going to those locations, but I've never come across a place that I would absolutely refuse to go back to.
I would have to kind of say the same. I probably wouldn't have it on my priority list, but not that I wouldn't go back to it.
Right. So what kind of equipment does your team use?
What don't we
Depends
use?
on if Michelle remembers to turn it on.
Or like me.
I will say I have issues with remembering to turn my recorder on because I think sometimes I just get sidetracked because if I'm seeing and hearing something, I'll hit EMF detectors, recorders. We actually have a lot of old school types of recorders too. We use older toys. We have one gentleman that's on the team who's our tech that also has built like some look like antique boxes that actually also work as like a REM pod. So when we're going to places, it kind of fits in. It's not because if you're going somewhere and you have a spirit from the 1800s and you're asking it to touch a REM pod, it doesn't know what that is. But when you're using things like an old box or an old cigar box or whatever that is, so we use a lot of that old stuff, and he builds different things with them, and so that's kind of what we use. We have pyramids that he's built. Yeah, just a lot of things.
Do you use a SLS camera or infrared or?
We use infrared. I have my own opinion on the SLS camera. I do like it if you're in a very big open building. But when you're in, if it picks up the door jamb, it will make it look like a person dancing. And even when we're doing an event, I don't, we like to tell the truth and we'll explain that. But like if you're going down a long hallway that's open and use it, I think it's really good for that, to be able to get things. So it's, I kind of use it a little bit.
Right. Yeah, we use ours a lot at the cemetery that we go to.
Oh.
We've got stick figures crawling across the grass.
Oh wow.
Oh, nice.
So,
I
yeah,
call those zombies.
that's hard to explain. There's no sharp edge to make a stick figure.
Yeah, in an open area, an SLS camera is great. It's like I said, like when we're doing a private home, we would never use an SLS camera,
No.
because there's too much in a home. But I open outdoors and stuff. Yeah, I would definitely use one.
How about dowsing rods?
Love them.
Michelle
like
uses
them.
them more than I do.
I do. Again, our team is so diverse. We have, a lot of the paranormal investigators that use a lot of the equipment. I like to use some of it. But a lot of times I'm, myself, Jake, Derek, when we're with the groups, we kind of keep our head on a swivel to make sure people are safe. So we use our abilities more.
Right.
But I do like playing with all the gadgets, though. I have fun with those.
Me too. I like that. I like my dowsing rods. I collect them, so I have quite a few, and lost some over the weekend at a graveyard. So, needless to say, some guy who's mowing the grass at the graveyard is going to be really pissed in about a week when he finds it wrapped around this blade. So,
which set did you lose?
One of the ones made by Jerome Minks at McPike Mansion.
Oh.
Yeah, and he's passed. So I lost one.
You better have Derek go out there and look for it.
She did. She was there.
We looked all over the place.
I can't hear anything she's saying.
Oh, we can hear you.
I can hear you and Jake, but I don't hear her at all.
Oh, you don't hear her?
I hear Denise just fine.
Yeah, so I'm not sure.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Can you hear her?
How? Okay.
No.
Jake, can you hear Denise?
Yeah, I can hear her just fine.
Yeah, she sounds muffled on my end. It's like I lost her. I hear everybody else but her, which is weird. But I know she's talking.
Nope.
So
I don't know what's going on. So, but
right. But
yeah, with the other side,
you lost the dowsing rods at the cemetery they were at last weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, with the other.
I've been going back looking for those.
Well, with the other set of dowsing rods, we asked the spirits out there, where we lost the other dowsing rod, and it gave us a name, Fry. I mean, right away. And we happened to look up, and there's 2 big graves with the last name of Fry. So we looked that area really good, but we still didn't find it.
Nope. They're copper, so they're very skinny and small. So hopefully, when we go to McPike Mansion for our volunteer time in October, maybe Sharon will have one laying around that didn't get picked up. So, because that's
right.
Because Jerome made them, and that's the big deal for me. And I shouldn't have had them up under my arm.
No, that's too stupid.
But I had 2 sets with me, and
so you got all these other chapters and teams in these other states. Do you ever have a big video call or conference call to stay in touch with them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, every Sunday we do, and then we also pick at least once or twice a year where we all get together. It's just kind of a team building thing where we just all kind of hang out together. We talk about things. We do kind of mix because if they do events, each chapter does their events there, but sometimes we'll crisscross them. We might need somebody from the Kansas City area to come and help us and things like that. So we do stay in touch. The one thing I can honestly say about this group, we have actually formed, like I said, like a family unit, because we all have to watch each other's backs when we're out doing this stuff, because we're not just going to the unknown, but we're also going to see people we don't know either. So
Right.
it's kind of a twofold. So yeah, we stay very close. Everybody stays in the loop. We'll make random calls. We keep a chat together. And yeah, I mean, we have an intake coordinator. We have our social media person that takes care of all the social media. We have someone that does a lot of the artwork and keeps things going. We have an event coordinator that puts all that stuff together. So we all do a lot of talking. So, I mean, all around.
Well, that's good.
Mhm.
So let's see. Up in Iowa, there, did a lot of your stuff get canceled?
Yes,
Yeah.
we had to push them off because we did have a lot of stuff coming. What was it? April and May. We have 3 events that we are going to try to do here in June, but they're very small events. They're a smaller location. We actually have it out there, to wear the mask and everything if you're more comfortable. But the place that we're actually set up to do it, we know the people, we know the place is safe. We're not forcing anybody to come, but it's something that, I think by June, what the first one's June 13th, I believe. I think there'll be people that'll be ready to get out for a little bit. And we were testing the waters, and people are excited to start seeing them. And then we, of course, every month, June, July, August, September, October, and November before we finish them all out.
When do they think they're going to open it up there in Iowa?
A lot of the counties are opened here. There's only, I believe, I want to say 22 counties they haven't completely opened, but they have opened a lot of places. I think this past weekend in Iowa City, they had the mall opened, but it was like 50% could only go in there. So they're already starting to open things up slowly but surely. We've got a lot
Right.
of events there in the Missouri area and St. Joe's and places like that, that we are kind of pushed back to find out what it's going to be like in those areas.
Yeah, Missouri's kind of got a weird stance on it. In some places, it's 10 people or 10%, whichever's larger. And if you're there more than 10 minutes, you got to sign in. And that's in Kansas City, Missouri area. So some of those counties around there are following that.
Downtown Kansas City.
So
Run by idiots.
it's run by idiots. But that's a whole different story. Springfield, Missouri, this past weekend, we ate in a nice restaurant, had a good time. You couldn't even tell anything was going on. You didn't even see anybody in masks except some workers. And that was it. It was different. So, but Ron drives up to, Maryville to Marysville to Ottawa, Kansas, over to someplace in Missouri, everywhere. So we get to hear what's going on everywhere, on how bad it is, how good it is, whatever. So I don't know. It's strange how people are either getting out or not. It's one or the other. So, and I wanted to say something to Nicole Gaspard. Her husband passed away, and I'm so sorry for your loss, Nicole. And
Nicole, yeah, we'll send prayers out to Nicole.
So sad that, and that's what I woke up to the news on Sunday morning. So
yeah. So, but yeah, the events. What Paracons or anything you got coming up this year?
I'll be a guest speaker at the Kansas City Paracon. So I'll be there, and the Kansas City crew will be there with a table. And then we also have the Hauntacon in September, which is in Nebraska.
Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah.
Yep. September 26th.
So we'll be doing those. This will be actually our first year doing any of those. We've never been to them or did them. So it's going to be kind of exciting just to kind of see what it's all about. But, you know, like I said, we're normally pretty busy. I mean, back to back with things, because doing the events and, you know, doing private homes, we stay kind of busy on that. But I am excited to be one of the guest speakers there to see what that's like. Hopefully I don't get stage fright, you know, but
You won't.
I'll give it a shot.
You'll be fine. It's good to see that there's some other speakers besides the ones we already know. You know, we know all the other ones. So instead of that David Glidden, we get to see him all the time. I'm just being
him and that Josh Hurd show up everywhere.
I know. I just don't know what they're going to do with all these events being on the same day. You know, because HauntCon and Van Meter Festival and the Haunted Road Media Paracon are all on the same day now. Yeah, we can hologram them. There we go. They can be in 3 places.
There we go. Yeah.
So,
Dan Williams and PRI will be down there at KC Paracon this year.
Nice.
I don't know. Is Aaron from Ghost Crier going to be there?
Yes, he is.
Yes,
Mr.
he is.
AA Ron.
Yeah.
he's supposed to
We
be
do
there.
a lot with him also.
He's a sweet
Nice.
man.
He's good people. He's good people.
And
So, but yeah, he's supposed to also do a guest speaking part too there. So
I hope
it'll
it's a
be kind
different
of
presentation.
fun. He was with us at the McInerney Villa when we did our live streaming there, and so we had a blast. I like that he will, you know, you ask him, hey, will you volunteer to do something, and he goes, okay, and then we put him in, you know, wooden coffins and see what we can get.
Well, why not?
And he plays along so well, so that's great.
Nick does too, you know. But do not play Cards Against Humanity with Nick. That guy's got a dirty mind. It goes over really fast. But yeah, I remember being in the McIntyre Villa with the old owners. I haven't been in there since the new people bought it, but we were in there with the old owners back in 2017, and they took us through the whole house while it was for sale. And they were filming a movie, and that's why I was there. And so it was really interesting to be there. But you know, there's some things people don't know about that house, but it was on our tour. You know, I did the bus tours, the trolley tours in Atchison. So there's some things about the house that I know that some people may not know, like the tiles, all the tiles in the fireplaces are uranium tile.
Oh.
Yeah. So if you get a lot of EMF around them, that's why they're uranium. It's an unusual setup, but there's a lot of houses built in that time that have uranium tile. Random crap. Just random crap I know. So, but yeah, it's a beautiful house, and we had talked about buying it one time. We said, you know, if that house ever comes up for sale, we might buy it. And it's just the location is the area is so sucky. Couldn't have a job up there. So, but that's from all those years of working up there. So, I have a question for you guys. Is there a location? If we're going to leave out the YMCA. Okay, we know you guys love it. Is there a location that you guys would tell people this is the place you need to go to if you want to have paranormal activity?
A location that we would tell people you have to go if you want paranormal activity that can't be the Y.
Right, because you guys have talked about that a lot. So
I've got a couple places that I really like. One of them is the McIntyre Villa. I know Michelle always refers to it as an elegant haunting. Some of the stuff that her and I have seen that goes on there, her and I have had to do a double take, and then we look at each other and we go, that can't be what's happening here. That can't be what we're seeing. And then we get the evidence to back it up. And that's one of them. Another one for me would probably be the Farrar School. And a lot of people with that always say, well, it's an old school. Like, what could be haunted about an old school? And it's like, there's so much more to it than that. Michelle always says it's not necessarily about the building. Sometimes it can be the property and the grounds that the building sits on. And that's a lot of what's going on with the Farrar School. We'll be outside, and there was a time we were doing an event there. And Michelle will probably not be happy with me saying this, but we were all sitting out front waiting for the guests to arrive. And it was October, and Michelle and I were kind of seeing stuff get closer to the building. And Michelle goes, okay, everyone get inside. We gotta get inside and close these doors so they can't get us. So we rushed inside, shut the door, locked them, and then we all looked at Michelle and we were like, they can walk through stuff. Like, how is this going to help?
Hey, at that moment, I felt safe being in the building instead of what I was seeing outside.
We all went along with it too. Like,
and
no
they
one
all
thought
ran
anything
with me.
about it.
And that's one thing I always say, if you see me run, keep up, you know, but it was just one of those things that for some reason being inside, locking that door made me feel safe. And then I just stood there and I'm looking at all these guests and Jake, and I'm like, did I just do that? And yeah, that does happen.
Well,
but like
know,
I said,
maybe,
you know, I mean,
that's
what makes me, I mean, I'm human, you know, sometimes you get scared.
Yeah. Maybe the spirits didn't realize they could walk through doors. You don't know.
Especially if they don't realize they're dead. They might not know that they're capable of doing that. Yeah.
Right. You just don't know.
Right.
Because I've heard that a lot about the Farrar Schoolhouse. You know, Coyote Chris is a good friend of ours. We've known him for a long time, and he says it's outside. He goes, stay outside as long as you can. He goes, you're going to get all kinds of experiences out there. And at the McIntyre Villa, while we were filming, I heard somebody run up and down the back steps on the second floor up to the attic and then back down. And it was going on the whole time they were filming. And so I don't know if they got it on film, you know, heard the sounds on film, but you know, it is what it is. There is something going on there. So, and how about you, Michelle? Where would you say, not the YMCA, that you got to go to have to experience paranormal activity?
Michelle, where would you say to go to have the best experience?
Huh. God, oh my gosh, there's so many places. You know what? MSP, I would say. Because no matter where you go, there's something different in each area of it. From, you know, some really darker side of it to, you know, some of the sadder parts of it. Every time I was there, it always brought some type of evidence. It is an amazing place to go. It's
sad that it's not all open. You know, some of the buildings are still closed from the tornado and then the flooding. So, in fact, I have Maggie and Thomas are coming on my show the second Monday in June.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we've met up with Maggie and Thomas a few times there at MSB.
They were on my show.
It's a great bunch. We adore them. They are amazing people.
Yeah, they are sweet. They were on my show a few years ago, and I was at my mom's, and all you can hear are the toads in the background. And that's the only thing anybody remembers about that show were toads. Is all you can hear. So, but for me, it's a happy memory because it was at my mom's house in Eastern Kentucky. So, but Maggie, she sent me a message the other day. She goes, I still remember that show and all them toads. She goes, I don't know how you did it without laughing. I said, I had a hard time. So,
right.
And
now we got a question. We got a question here from the comment. Does your equipment sometimes give you different readings than your senses?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it does. A lot of equipment that is used is based on different types of energy that goes through it to make it do what it needs to do. Sometimes we can see something standing next to it, and if the energy is not strong enough, it might not make the equipment go off, but we can see it being there by the equipment. And vice versa. Sometimes it can make a whole bunch of equipment go off because it's just straight energy based, but it's not strong enough where we're able to see it. So it's kind of been on both sides.
Right, right. I was writing in the chat room there. Oh, let's see. Any more questions coming up? You got anything else, Denise?
No, not right now. I'm trying to think of something good to ask that can be heard.
Right. Yeah.
So you guys have a lot of
back.
So you guys have a lot of events coming up, and that sounds great. Where can we find your events? Where are they listed at?
So there's a couple different places you can go to find our full list of events. You can go to our Facebook page, which is Riverside, Iowa Paranormal. They should all be pinned up at the top there. I know we just put out a post within the last few days of some of the ones that are coming up here in June. And then also you can go to our website, which is riversideiowa.paranormal.org. Mm-hmm. Not .com. I always mess that up and do .com, but it's riversideiowa.paranormal.org.
Okay.
And just go to the events tab, and it's all there. And if you click there, it takes you right to Thriller events, and that's where you can get those.
Okay. And let's see. And you said they go all the way through November, and are all these are all pay for experience events?
Correct. And some of that money that we make from ticket sales actually goes back into the building for upkeep. Yeah. Because a lot of them are very historical buildings. So a lot of that money goes back into them so that they can keep the location up to specs and keep it up and running.
That's good, because I know a lot of teams around here don't do that. So just from noticing what's going on. So, but I'm glad to hear that you guys are doing that. So that makes it a charitable cause.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you guys ever do anything for other charities like Lost Limbs Foundation or anything like that?
Not that I know of. Michelle, do you know of any other charities that we've done events for as opposed to just the locations? I know we've talked about doing some stuff.
We helped some other groups that did it for charity. We have not done one for a charity. We've talked about doing it, but we also have to find a location that be willing to work with us to do something like that. Because like I said, all the monies that we make from our events, we don't get any of that part. The small percentage we do get into that is actually helping do the private clients, and the other big majority of it does go to the places that we're there to help them. But if we have done kind of at the Y a donation for the Y, where people could just pay what they wanted to come in to help keep the Y up and going, because it is such a huge building. But yeah, if there's ever a charity that would love for us to come and help them, we'd be more than happy to do that.
Oh, good. That's good to hear. So, like I said, I just know some people that every event they do is for this charity and stuff like that. But I mean, you guys are doing stuff for these locations, so that's very charitable too.
Yep.
So,
yeah, that's just like we're waiting for the lift order to lift up down there in Independence, Missouri. I'm we're the assistant tour guides to the 1859 Jail Museum down there with Dusk to Dawn.
We've got a lot of
And,
events that are going to be happening in the Missouri area. So that, I think that's what we've been waiting for, because we've had to push a lot of them off for later on in the year.
Yeah. The bad part is that there's going to be so many things stacked on top of each other because of the virus.
Yeah. A lot of our events are kind of one weekend we're in one place, another weekend we're at another event, and so yeah, you're exactly right. They do kind of pile up because of the virus, having to renegotiate and move things around.
Well, I mean, not only that, like I said, other events that people have already said, I'm going to this event,
Right.
and they have to change what they're doing, because that's what we have to make a decision between two places that I said we would be, and I have to go between Alton and Van Meter,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sorry to say Alton's going to win out because we're volunteers at McPike. So I guess I'll be going there twice in 2 months. So
yeah, we're lucky that there's enough of us that if we do have events that fall on the same date, we can kind of divide and conquer.
we can't. It's just me and Ron.
Right. Yeah, it's a little tougher to do that when it's just a couple people. Yeah.
Yeah. We work with other teams. I mean, Carl, we work with Carl and Gary, their team, and we'll work with any team that's out there. It's easier when you're a married couple. You just say, yep, nope, okay. Yeah, we'll even work with Carl.
Yeah, they work with us, especially, see, we got a cemetery that we took over that found out through the records and everything, it was my great-great-grandfather's cemetery.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And yeah, but what got us down there, we was taking care of the cemetery until we started hearing everything about what people have seen down there. The locals, including the sheriff's department and deputies, have seen soldiers on horseback.
Oh, wow.
And then other people have seen Indians when we've been down there watching us.
Yep, me.
So, yeah, that was Denise. She seen the Indians when we do a camp out at our cemetery. It's out in the middle of nowhere. So, everybody still there? Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah,
we're
I'm here. I'm just
We
kind of like,
got a
wow.
question here from Kim. It says, how far do you guys travel?
We try not to go any farther than about 5 to 6 hours depending on where we're all located. So we kind of mix it up to see. We always find out what part of the team is closer to a certain place.
Well, that's awesome. So, okay. And you've already told us about every place they can find you and contact you
Yes.
on Facebook and YouTube and all that, right?
Yes.
So, okay. Well, I guess we'll end the show tonight. And I want to thank you both very much for being on our show.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you
us.
so
Thank
much.
you guys so
I
much.
really
Anytime.
enjoyed it.
You can come back anytime. And everybody just check out let's see, Into the Dark.
Yes.
And that's on the Spiritual Realm Network, right, Michelle?
The Spirit Realm Network. Yes.
Right. And the same place, check out Jake, and you can check out the readings by Jake.
Correct.
Yeah, he does readings. So again, I thank you all. I thank everybody in the chat room. I'll take you out. Just stick around for a little bit, and I'll talk to you after the show. And Denise, I want to thank you again for being the co-host tonight. on our show.
I love it. I'll be there for you anytime, and thank all the chatters for their questions and, being there. And I hope everybody had a great time. If you guys have any questions, keep it, just put in there in the chat and we'll still get to them. So have a great night.
Right. Everybody come back next Tuesday night, because I'll probably be at the different location doing the show. And I have a real good guest on. Denise is going to like this. I have the Reverend Sean Whittington, Paranormal Mystery, will be on the show next week. So
yep. That'll be good practice. Be good practice before we go live on June 7th.
Right. But everybody come in next week. If you have questions for the Reverend, you're going to get a kick out of him. He's a fantastic, friendly, hilarious man. So, again, we thank everybody in the chat room. Come back and see us next week. So everybody have a good night and God bless all.
Good night, everyone.